Hello and welcome to the Foxcatcher Preview Show. My name's Julian Valence, joined not in the studio like last week, but on location in Sydney from a very poor Wi-Fi situation. Nico Ashman, how are you, Nico?
I'm good, Jules. Good to be here. 3 Group 1s down there in Melbourne that we'll talk about in a few minutes' time. And, of course, the all-important Silver Slipper, one of the main guides to the Golden Slipper in a few weeks' time. And can Woderton overcome that shocking barrier draw from the 1,100-metre start at Rosehill, which is always tricky?
Jam-packed show, that's for sure, mate. Let's start off with our track intel. You kick us off. Rosehill, what are we playing with?
Yeah, look, a little bit of rain around in Sydney. Not a heap, though, but maybe sort of 5 to 10 mils going into Saturday. Could push us into that soft range. So we're saying maybe good 4 to soft 5s in terms of the condition. Wind, I don't think is going to be a factor. 15 to 20 kilometres an hour. Shouldn't play too much or have much of an impact on racing on Saturday. Intel, this is the all-important information. What we're looking at here is lanes 2 to 6 in the straight being the place to be, rails and runs. So you're looking for those lower draws. That's going to suit particularly sprint races forward of midfield, again, from those inside gates. So up and in is the call of the day at Rosehill on Saturday.
Beautiful. There you go, punter. So that is the Rosehill Intel. Caulfield for me down here for Blue Diamond Stakes Day. We are out 4 metres the entire circuit. Working on a good 4, but I think we get an upgrade to a good 3 at some stage throughout the day. We know there's going to have to be some irrigation. Really hot conditions on Friday, really hot conditions on Saturday. So they're going to have to artificially water this track at some stage. We think probably the last time they raced here, there might have been just a little bit too much watering happening. And we sort of, the times indicated we were sort of on a soft track when we probably should have been on a good track. So maybe that plays into their heads a little bit as well. So I think we get that upgrade early. Wind's really important to understand here. 30 to 45 kilometre northerly wind. What does that mean at Caulfield? It means it's a headwind in the chute. So 1,000 to 1,200 metres are going to be impacted. That northerly wind's going to be straight into their faces. When this occurs, we know jockeys like to find cover, so they sit up a little bit. They're not going to go as fast in that first 400 metres as they usually would at Caulfield. So be mindful of that. For the intel, well, I think usually when we're playing at Caulfield, we want to be on speed. But I think the chute, again, the 1,000 to 1,200, the way I'm seeing it is, it's pretty even. Worse than midfield's going to be okay, which is usually a no-no at Caulfield. But worse than midfield, okay, be careful of the leaders with this wind. I'm not saying they can't win, but they do find it really a lot more difficult than a usual Caulfield setup with the wind the way it's going to be. So just be careful of those horses that you think are going to find the front. In terms of the circle, I want to be on speed. So maybe from the 1,400 metres, I might not want to be leading, but I still don't think it's as savage as the chute, not as bad as an issue. I want to be in the first 4 or 5, especially with this deck that's going to continue to dry out. I don't want to be thinking you're going to be midfield or worse than midfield and being able to overrun these good horses. The better class of the horses, you want to be closer to the speed, and especially with the dry deck, possibly a good 4 into a good 3, got to be on speed with the circle 1,400 metres plus. That's the intel for Rosehill and for Caulfield. Right, Fox Factors this week, Nico. Horses early in the prep. So we've got a lot of horses this week up in Rosehill and obviously Caulfield as well, either first up or second up in their prep. Just want to give the punters just a guideline on what we look for when we're looking at horses early in their prep that might be able to shape what we do for this run and also shape other times for their future runs in the prep. So I think a key factor here is understanding the ultimate goal of what each horse might be in a particular race. Are they going to be ready to rock and roll early, or have they got bigger fish to fry, as they say, down the track? Is this important for you, knowing the ultimate goal for each horse?
Yeah, it is. And I learned that again last weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to myself, but Via Sistina, her ultimate goal is the Queen Elizabeth Stakes in April. She was beaten by Fangirl first up last week in the Apollo. And Fangirl, you would think probably isn't so much chasing the Queen Elizabeth, maybe has earlier targets this autumn. And that's why I think she was probably just a little bit more forward-looking out there on course. And she was able to jump. And obviously, Via Sistina didn't jump well. But just knowing those targets, you can use that across the board. If you've got a horse that's not going to be set to peak until 2 months' time, you generally don't back a Melbourne Cup horse first up in September. You're looking to back it a little later on in October, November. So you've got to always look at that ultimate goal. Definitely agree with you.
Market intelligence is always so important in anything in terms of a race shape and what you think might happen, how these horses run. But I think for horses early in the prep, being able to read the market is a major, major factor in trying to decide this horse can win or this horse is having a bowl around.
And I take it a step further, Jules. If you see a horse that's first up from a spell, from a sticky gate, like a horse, Wodenton's not first up, but drawn wide first up, and it's heavily backed, it probably means that the horse is fit and is fit enough to go forward, do a bit of extra work. Now, even if it doesn't win, you know, if second up it goes out to 1,400 metres, it's ready to go second up as well. So reading the market's not just about saying, hey, this horse is going to or ready to win today. It's also about making sure you put it in the back of your head for its next run, knowing that it's ready to rock and roll second up as well.
I think a key factor there with reading the market, especially for horses first up, Nico, and it probably comes into also a bit of intent, is if a horse absolutely is drifting, say $5 out to double figures, you know it's just not there. It's not going to actually do the job for you. And that could be a variety of factors of whether the barrier, so they're going to actually be really conservative and be negative from the gate, or what it could be, or it actually just lacks condition and this is not its day. You have to play that into the way you are playing a race as well. You have to have it in the back of your head. You're just going to say, oh, the market's got this wrong. This horse is still going to be able to exceed the market expectation. It just doesn't happen, especially for these horses that are first up in good races. So I think you need to take that on board, especially closer to the death. Read the market, understand, and then it comes into a factor known as intent, and you got the feeling that the camp are probably not that intent. And again, all horses are theoretically out there to win the race, but we know it as punters that that's not the case.
100%. And also stables, Jules, up here in Sydney, Gay Waterhouse, Gerald Ryan, notorious for having their horses ready to go first up. They're great conditioners of them. Both of them have got now partners working with them, but I've noticed that their pattern of racing hasn't really changed much since those partners came aboard their training regime. So that's another thing you've always got to look for. And then also jockeys from certain starting points on tracks. You know, the 1,400-metre start point Caulfield's a tricky one. We'll touch on that when we do the Futurity preview. What does Craig Williams typically do when he's drawn wide at Caulfield over 1,400 metres? Go and find the results, study the jockey, understand how they play those races. That's going to give you great intel as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So that's the Fox factors for this week. Horses early in the prep. Righto, punters, let's get into the Group 1 set. 3 Group 1s this week, obviously all at Caulfield. All right, we're going to kick off with the Blue Diamond Stakes for 2-year-olds. Nico, as you can see, here's the market. Flat open market as well, and you can understand that. So no 2-year-olds really have jumped out of the ground, in particular in Melbourne. Field of Play is the favourite. There's been a bit of support at PointsBet for Cherish Me. And again, as I said, some other horses that have got some good support. The Playwright's in there as well. Palm Angel won the Phillies Prelude. It doesn't end there. It's a pretty deep race, but it's a very flat open race. I will say it's probably in the years I've been doing the Diamond, I think it's one of the weakest, but you probably don't judge the Blue Diamond until maybe they become 3 and you go from there. But actually doing it pre-race, this concerns me as a race going forward. Quickly, just a map that I sort of put up here that the punters can see. I think the Playwright rolls forward from that good gate. Tempted's a really interesting one. I wouldn't be surprised if they rolled the dice and tried to sit outside lead. Palm Angel, you'd think it'd probably get leaders back. Devil Knight will probably find a spot as well. I think Field of Play and Cherish Me are the 2 map horses for me that can settle sort of in the first 6 or 7 and have cover as well. And then you got a few other horses that are probably going to have to go back, like My Gladiola. I know they've already made the announcement that they are going to go back. It just didn't work for them, obviously leading. They go back to their debut run where they were able to finish off. They should be able to find probably a backside like Miss Celine or something like that. So that's the map. That's how I've set it up. Have you got anything sort of different to that, Nico?
The only thing I'd add there, Jules, is the Waterhouse stable, going back to them again. When the wind's around, Gay loves her horses leading. Everyone knows that. Happy to shoot the breeze, as she says. But when there's a stiff headwind, she quite often looks for cover. And I draw your attention back to Cottagio last spring. He was going to get a soft lead in front. They elected to take cover on him, and it might have been the difference between him winning and losing. So don't assume that the Playwright's definitely going to go to the front. They may look for cover on that filly.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point too, because there's not a lot of speed really in this race. I know there's a few horses that have drawn really cute and you'd think they'd want to roll forward, but there's no real, outside of the Playwright, there's no real horse that's going to actually take it up. So it could be interesting, especially with the wind in play. You probably don't want those 2-year-olds really facing the breeze because anything can happen there, especially with these babies. So it's going to be fascinating to see what actually unfolds in the first 300 metres of this race. Do you want to play into the Blue Diamond? As I said, it's an open flat market, about $5 the field. Do you see any edges for the punters out there in this race?
I don't know what price he is. Obviously, I run a subscription service, so I sent it out yesterday when he was $17. But I thought Extractor, he brings a different form line to this race. He brings a reasonably solid form line. I do some work for some studs who are looking at purchasing stallions. And back when he made his debut against North England, I did suggest that I thought that he would be a real 1,200-metre horse. He gets to 1,200 for the first time. Sectionally, he was very strong late, first up from a spell. Best last 400 metres of the race and one of the top 10 performances of the day. He was back towards the inside at Randwick that day, first up over 1,000 metres when you wanted to be off rail. I think he's going to be a massive improver. Michael Friedman, last 100 runners, travelling at about 23% strike rate and around 17% profit on turnover. So he's a good stable to follow in recent times. And speaking of good people to follow, Benny Mellon. There's not too many jockeys riding at a better strike rate and better profitability in Victoria than him. So the combination of those three things makes me think that Extractor is definitely a bet.
Okay, so Extractor for Nico there at a good each-way price. I didn't want to play into this race at all, but then I started to dip my toe into it, and now I'm fully deep into it. So I'm a little bit concerned I'm setting some fire to some coin here. But I just think Field of Play is the one that maps really well. And look, it hasn't lit up the page, but nothing has in terms of their numbers. And I think the boys' Prelude was clearly superior to the fillies' Prelude. Blake Shin, I just don't think he can mess it up from there. I think it's going to be really hard to beat. So I played with it. I thought Tycoon Star comes out of the same race. I don't mind gate 15 for it, just the way the wind's going to be. Zara is such a competitive beast that I think he'll find the right gaps when he needs to. He might not have to come 9 or 10 wide. He might just be able to pick apart this field that it starts to disintegrate probably at the 300 or 400. A few are going to drop right out of the back of the TV, and he might be able to just pick away his part. So I was happy to have something on Tycoon Star. And then I went sort of in a similar vein to you, trying to find a different form line, Nico. I went with a different form line altogether in terms of just a Geelong Diamond winner in Cherish Me. Haven't seen her since that win, but I had her rating really well. I really liked the last 200 in particular. The camp decided to say, hey, let's put her away and let's have one crack at this diamond. So, look, it's not a race I'm that excited in. I probably wish I didn't play into it, but I am playing into it. So let's see what happens. That is the Blue Diamond for this year, 2025. Group 1, Oakleigh Plate is the next race that we're going to look at here. And again, pretty open, flat market. Estrella is your favourite. Good support. She's bulletproof since PointsBet went up Wednesday afternoon. Outside of that, good support for Jimmy Star. He was sort of double figures. He's probably a little bit shorter now. Arabian Summers at that sort of double figure price. It's a very interesting race here, Nico. Again, my map, I thought Hard to Say goes forward. Insurrection goes forward. I thought Golden Boom from that gate probably has to roll forward. Estrella's an interesting horse. They either go back or they trying to find a spot in the first 5 or 6. That'll be interesting. Arabian Summer, tricky gate, but Jamie Mallam is so brilliant on these horses, especially with 50 kilos. Probably tries to find a backside in the first part of the race. She's bulletproof, sets up really well, I think, from gate 8. I think it's probably just about the map horse. And a horse like Jimmy Star just has to go all the way back. Now, if this was at Flemington, I'd probably give Jimmy Star a chance because that piece of string that you sometimes talk about, Nico, wouldn't be as far or as long as compared to, say, around Caulfield, where this horse might actually be 15 or 20 lengths off them as they're rounding at the 600. What do you want to do with this race, the Oakleigh Plate?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Jimmy Star, just going back to him for a moment, he was 8 lengths off them at the 600-metre mark when he resumed last preparation, running a career peak over this track and distance. He drops him weight off that. He needs to because he needs to maintain that same rating, if not go to probably another level to win the Oakleigh Plate on Saturday. But he's got a little bit of pizzazz about him. And I take your point. He's going to go back and he's got to probably come through the ruck, which is always a low percentage play. But if he can get the breaks at the right time, he can definitely finish off over the top of them. Initially, I was in the corner of the 2 Marmares at the top of the weights, I Am Me and Australia. But I never like backing mares at the top of handicap Group 1 races. They rarely do it other than horses like Maccabi Diva. The other one I want to mention is Ostraka. He ran some really good figures up here in Sydney, first, second and third up last preparation. I think the 1,500, the Golden Eagle, was too much for him, but he's come back in really good order. He gets a pretty handy jockey in Zara to do the steering tomorrow. He's got an outside gate, but if he can slot in and find a bum, it's a big if, then I think he can be in the finish as well. I'm struggling to have a bet in the race. But if I was to, I'd say Jimmy Star and Ostraka at this point in time.
Yeah, just with Ostraka and Zara, it's a really interesting one from a map perspective. I wouldn't be surprised if Zara said, hey, I'm just going to follow the backside of Jamie Mellum here on Arabian Summer because it'll take it as far as I think it can into the race, and then it's up to the horse's ability. So it's an interesting one from a map perspective because it has drawn wide, that it might not be a disadvantage as we spoke about in the shoot with the way this wind is going to be. I'm going to back two here. I'm backing She's Bulletproof. I think the map's sensational. I just love what she did in that 1,200 metre race a few weeks ago. Ran about 10.8 last 200. You don't see that too often. And I know it was a really lightning fast track that day. But yes, she goes back to 1,100 metres. She's got 52 kilos. She's got C. Williams. I just think she finds the right backside. She might need some luck in the straight, but She's Bulletproof for me is a bet. And Arabian Summer is the other one. I thought its win last start was pretty good as well. I've struggled to find numbers for it. I found a number for it last start. Again, might need some luck from the map, but Jamie Mellon with 50 kilos. I just want to be with those two horses down in the weights in a very, very open Oakleigh plate. Let's get to the third, Group 1, really quickly here, Nico. This, I think, is the most fascinating from a map perspective. It is the Futurity Stakes. You can look at the prices here. Mr. Brightside is the short price favourite, which is understandable. I Wish I Win first up. He's in the market as well. And then outside of that, you probably have to go to maybe a horse like Evaporate and Private Life at bigger prices, the 2-3-year-olds. Map is key in a race like this, always is in these wait for age tactical affairs. I think the Hayes camp control the narrative of this race. One in particular, if they decide to go forward, I think with the 3-year-old, which I think they should do, it then creates, I think, an issue for Mr. Brightside, because I don't think he can get across. Because the way I see it is Evaporate can go forward and lead. I think the other 3-year-old Private Life would probably then come and sit outside it. I think a horse like Pericles would want to just hold the back of the leader. Tom Kitten would be sort of somewhere probably just behind Pericles. I Wish I Win can probably settle a little bit closer because I don't think they're going to go crazy fast. And then we have this conundrum of Mr. Brightside. Craig Williams, what does he do? Does he roll the dice and continue to push into the wind and possibly be posted 3 wide into the wind, or then try and continue to go and sit outside Evaporate, or even then try and continue to lead the 3-year-old, or do they go all the way back? What do you think?
I think Evaporate goes forward. Mr. Brightside comes across and tries to drop in and grab his bum in the run. That's what I think will happen. I don't think they can go back to the tail of the field on Mr. Brightside, but it's fraught with danger going forward because that top corner, the 1,400-metre start point, is the trickiest at Caulfield. You've got a very short run before you go into that top corner turn, and then you've got the headwind down the side, if you like. So if he does a bit of work just to sort of get across coming into that top corner, he's then got to do a power of work if he doesn't have a bum to follow down the side. So I hope it pans out for him. I can't bet in the race simply because if he finds a bum in the run, he should be beating this slot. But if he doesn't, then he's horribly exposed. If he does find a bum, then the $2.10 is a very good price about him. If you're really stinging for a bet, though, I think Tommy Kitten can run a bit of a race, and I know I'll probably get a few people laughing at me out there. But I think he's come back in pretty good order. He's got some decent fresh form to his name, and he just maps to get that run in behind them, and that might be all it takes for him to finally get a big win.
Yeah, it's just going to be really interesting from the map perspective. As you say, $2.10 if Mr. Brightside can probably sit outside leader, or if he can find the front or can find a backside, yeah, that's great. But if they do end up going all the way back, and we spoke about this earlier in terms of the intel of how this track's going to play, I don't think if he's last, as much as I think he's the best horse in the race, no doubting that, but at the price point of $2.10 and he has to go all the way back to last on a really fast, dry deck, I don't know if he can pick them up, those other horses. And they're good horses that are going to be in front of him, in particular a horse like I Wish I Win, 4 or 5 lengths in front on a dry deck to take a phenomenal performance. So it's going to be really interesting. The first 300 metres, we are going to find out, I think, who wins and loses this race, the Futurity Stakes on Saturday. Group 1 set, done. Righto, Nico, now it's time for your New South Wales set. Take it away.
All right, we start with race 3. I'm a little bit gun-shy at some of the bigger races in the card, but race 3, number 5, Step Aside for Chris Waller. Zach Lloyd in the saddle. Zach's riding really well. Gets the blinkers back on here, which I think is key. Wanted to over-race a little bit last time out. And did plenty wrong, as we know. You've only got to look at the replay. But it was a good performance nonetheless. Third up on Saturday, third up last preparation was good over a mile in a harder race at Flemington. Third up the prep before that had an SP of 5-4, 225. I think this horse is ready to rock and roll. Inside gate will suit. Move on then to race 4. This is a horse that I think is going to be a real talent. Little hoof note, cliff note, whatever you want to call it. It's called the Blade. He goes around possibly at Canterbury on Friday night as well. He's even money there, and I think he's a very good bet there. If they decide to go to Rosehill on Saturday, I still think he's a bet there. He's drawn barrier 1. His debut win was outstanding, won by nearly 6 lengths in fast time. First up last preparation. I don't think he was 100% right, but he ran into the very smart Private Harry. His trial coming into this is really good. Down on 52.5 kilos. He's going to be really, really hard to beat with Tyler Schiller in the saddle. And the last of them, race 10, number 5, she's an A-lister. She was a bit of a wet tracker, but she proved first up for the Flying Baker stable that she can do it on top of the ground. I reckon she might be a sneaky one for the Galaxy in a few weeks' time. She can knock this off. 420 is a good price about her, Jules.
There's the New South Wales set for Nico. Just really quickly, big talking, booming horse in the media is the 2-year-old Woderton. It's drawn 11 of 11. What do we make of it? And let's talk about some price sensitivity here. What would you want to be doing with this horse?
Well, look, the issue for him, obviously, barrier 11 is a problem quite often. It's not a problem if you're at Flemington or even at Caulfield where you got the half turn, but at Rosehill, it's a hairpin turn. So for those that don't know, all races over 1,200 metres or less at Rosehill start from the inside part of the track. There's a chute that goes inside. So the home turn is almost like a hairpin. So when you've drawn barrier 11 in an 1,100-metre race there, you've only got about 100 metres before you start turning. You're almost certain to be wide. Even if you go back, you're wide for the first part of the bend. So Karen McAvoy's really got his work cut out for him on Woderton. Look, if the horse can get the right run in transit, he can win. But that $2.20 that was put up early doors looks poison for mine. The 2 in that race that I can probably steer you into from an each-way point of view, number 2, West of Swindon, ran the best late sectionals of the race on debut behind North England. And the other one at a big price is Alabama Magic. You can get around 70 or 80 to 1 about this galloper. I thought she was really good over 1,000 metres. She's got that fitness run under her belt. She'll improve. And she maps to get the perfect run in transit. So a couple of roughies maybe to knock over Woderton. But he's kind of like Mr. Brightside, Jules. I know that he's a very good horse off what he did on debut. He's the clubhouse leader for 2-year-olds in this country at the moment, but I just can't back him from that barrier.
Yeah, intent's going to be a really interesting point of view there for Woderton to see what they end up doing from that gate, because it isn't the grand final. Do they just take the medicine on Saturday and let him finish off through the line, or do they go out there to win the race and then possibly jeopardise the rest of the prep? Going to be fascinating. Woderton. My set, I have sprinkled everywhere here. I love Caulfield when it's a dry deck, so this is where we're playing. Race 2, number 9, Winner's Edge each way. 1,000 metres is not its go. I thought it was really good through the line behind a horse called Mighty. I liked the last 400, 200 there. It rated really well. 1,100 now. I think it stalks the speed. That should be suited the way this win's going to be. Michael D, I think, will suit this horse. Really strong rider, especially in the last sort of two and a half furlongs. So I want to be with Winner's Edge in race 2 each way. Race 5, it's for the fillies, and obviously the Oaks winner, Treasure the Moment, comes back, and she's a really nice horse and could be better over 1,600 metres when she probably becomes a mare. And I'm backing a horse called Qatar's Choice, which is actually up from down from your way, Nico. First up, she just won a 1,200 metres maiden, but went through the roof on my rating system. And then last start, she got beaten by a horse called Point and Shoot. Now, she had no luck. She got beaten 5.5 lengths. But even when she got out, I think they still looked after her. She probably could have cut that margin, but they just looked after her. I think this is the horse that's the fit horse. Don't know about where that Mark Zara is going to get to from that gate, but I had to back Qatar's Choice each way at around that $9. Race 7 in the Futurity Stakes, I'm backing Evaporate each way. I think it finds the front. Now, if it doesn't find the front, money is gonzo. But I think it finds a front, and it's going to be really hard to run down on Saturday. Evaporate each way. In the Diamond, Field of Play, and Cherish Me. I'm happy to back those 2 horses that we mentioned in the Group 1 set. And in the Oakleigh Plate, again, a tough race, but I want to be with the horses down the bottom. She's Bulletproof with 52 kilos and Arabian Summer with 50 kilos. They're the 2 that I want to be with. So plenty of bets there, spreading it wide, but I think it's a day that I want to play with at Caulfield on a dry deck. Okay, snap or don't snap time, Nico here. So we're just trying to help the punters out with, should they back now? Should they be snapping now, taking the price, or just wait because they think they're going to get a better price? I'll kick us off because I've got 2 that I think we can just keep the powder dry on. Race 6 at Caulfield, there's a horse called Grinzinger Bell, who I know flies fresh, goes outstanding. But that $3.50, $3.60 is just a little bit tight for me. I think at some stage throughout betting, you're going to get a better price. She can definitely win, but I just think you'll get a better price than that price on offer right now. And in the Oakleigh plate, around $4.60, $4.80 Australiella. I've marked her a little bit bigger. And again, I think it's just an open, flat market. I wouldn't be surprised to see a horse like She's Bulletproof actually start favourite in this race. So I think you're going to get a better price about Estriella. And they're the two don't snaps for me. But you are coming out with the crocodile bite. You want to make a snap right now, my friend.
Yeah, a bit of a boom, 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 snap. Let's do this. All right, race 10. She's an A-lister. She was awesome first up. Good late splits. She absolutely pummeled the Black Cloud in that race and only meets her a kilo worse. I think the $4.20. I think the pros will look at the data out of that race. They'll say, right, she's done it on top of the ground. If there's a bit of rain around and we're on a soft 5 or even worse, that's even going to play into her corner even more. I'd be grabbing that $4.20 now. I think she'll start with a 3 in front of her name.
Beautiful confidence there from Nico on She's an A-lister. So that's the don't snaps and snaps. And we've got a snap this week. All right, pin the tail. So last week, punters, it was Switzerland. Now, there were some deductions. So Nico ended up with $2.61 as his predictions. Mine was $3.31. The SP at PointsBet, and that's what we go off, obviously, after the deductions. Or not the deductions, but actually what it was, $2.45. So it's 1-0 to the visitor. This week we're playing the Oakleigh Plate, my friend. So you can go first, actually, because winners are grinners. Estriella, what do you think?
As they say in golf, I have the honour.
Yes.
I think she'll start $5. She might just get a fraction more than what she does now, but you've got to remember, Jules, and I know you're going the other way here. She was 2 from 2 first up until last preparation when she was caught 3 wide, no cover at the Valley behind Mornington Glory. And she also beat Ray Magnerio last prep over the 1,100 metres comfortably, meets him about 6 kilos better at the weights for beating him. So I think that price, I don't think you'll get much more than $5 on the day.
All right, so Nico's going $5 for Estriella. I'm going $6. I just think there's just a bit of give in that. I know her 3-year-old figures, the Flemington race, and she ran another race where she just absolutely lit up the clock. And I don't know if she's got back to that number yet. I know she beat, as Nico referenced, she beat Ray Regnier at Caulfield. I thought she fell in that day. Ray probably should have won. Yes, she gets a better weight situation as well. But I just don't think she's got anywhere near that number that she got this time last year. And I think that's why I'm happy to go $6 Estriella in the Oakleigh Plate. So Nico $5, me $6. He leads 1-0. I need to get one back. Otherwise, 2-zip does stink. All right, punters. Well, we're only 1 week in, but this has now become my favourite segment of the show. Daisy's declaration. Last week, brother, fangirl. She did exactly what you thought would happen.
Mate, pay the people. That's what we said at the start of this. Declared it, went through, obviously, had a decent enough look. And I thought the fact that Via Sistina was $2,
Correct.
I wasn't taking any of that at that price. And even the race that I was referencing in that, Via Sistina cut the corner in that one. Fangirl, no luck down the outside on a track that probably wasn't suitable. Tables turned. Of course, we've got a Chao Wolf, is that how we say it?
Yeah, Chow Wolf.
Obviously kept Via Sistina in a pocket for a couple of strides there.
That helped.
But $4, pay the people.
Absolutely. People paid.
Yes.
But let's keep paying them, my friend. So this week, Group 1's everywhere in Melbourne, Group 2's in Sydney. Now, Sydney last week, you nailed it. Mm-hmm. But I think you're coming down. You're coming down south, aren't you?
Yeah. I did have a look in Sydney. Of course, we got the Silver Slipper.
Correct. Nice horses up there.
The Spruik horse being Wotan.
Correct.
Again, a pronunciation.
Yeah, no, you know when you're, but that's okay. You don't do 7 racing anymore. So it does Wotan, I think.
Wotan,
yeah.
This is the issue. You go back and listen to the race calls and they call it 3 different.
Exactly.
I don't know if I can swear.
Renouf is involved.
Yeah, correct.
For now.
And then Balmercy as well. 2-year-old steering clear, coming down, hits the Oakleigh Plate.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a tough race, the Oakleigh Plate. But the way you're seeing them, beach balls involved.
Correct.
I'm chips in with you. What are we doing?
Pebble Ocean. Here we go again. The declaration for this week, we are, of course, going to the Oakleigh Plate. Big field of 16 at the minute, which I think's a good thing. 3rd horse in the market, Ray Magnerio.
Oh, yeah. There's a price there.
$9 at the minute, $9.50 on the PointsBet app.
is.
That is some value. I'll tell you why. So second up, we like this. Was first up 2 weeks ago.
Was.
Won in a small field. Was 3 wide and posted.
Yep.
Insurrection, on speed, did everything to dictate. Ray Magniero had no right in coming down the middle like he did and winning off a speed that shouldn't have been conducive to that. Good enough to win. The favourite in this race goes up, Estriella.
Yeah.
$4. Track distance form, it's all very good. First up form, very, very good. I just feel Ray Magniero, Robbie Griffiths, obviously loves his horse and knows what to get the best out of him.
Yep.
And I think this is going to be grand final day. The big field, I think, suits, gets a good barrier in 5. John McNeil to steer.
Yep.
I think Ray's the most versatile horse in the race.
Yep.
And for that reason, at $9, $9.50, that is declared Ray Magniero responsibly will be winning the Oakleigh Plate. You heard it here first. And then we say, pay the people.
Very good. Thanks, Daisy. There you say, off the top rope, Daisy with his declaration. Ray Magniero, we'll see him next week. Win or lose. That's Daisy's declaration. Best of the rest, my friend Nico. Last week, you absolutely tore it up with cartwheels, so many punters were doing exactly that. This week, we're going to Moonee Valley Friday night. What do you got for me?
Friday night. Now, keep in mind the Blade might run at Canterbury on Friday night, so that'll be another bet for us. But Moonee Valley Race 6, Kind Gesture. I had something on her. She's an enigmatic mare, but I had something on her last time out. I reckon she should have just about won. She got held up multiple times. This race is no harder. You're getting around $17, $18, something each way for you on a Friday night on the couch.
Beautiful. Sounds good. And now let's get into plays of the day. All right, so kicking off here, race 2, number 9, Winner's Edge. I just think it sets up really well. 1,100 metres. I'd be absolutely stomping it as the greatest of all time if it was at 1,200 metres. But Mickey D in the saddle, I think it just stalks some backsides, gets the run. I loved what it did through the line in that 1,000-metre race where it just wasn't suited. Now ready to go. Winner's Edge each way, race 2, Caulfield. And your play of the day is just a little bit off skew, which doesn't surprise me.
It's just a cheeky little place multi. Look, with that track being a bit leaderish and stuff, I just find it hard to pile into them big time. So I think Step Aside, though, will run in the top 3 in race 3. I don't think he'll miss a drum there. And the same with the Blade. His fitness might give out. That might see him get beaten in race 4, but I can't see him missing top 3, I should say. And you're getting a bit upwards of $2.50 there for your multi. So a little place multi to get us going in the first half of the card, Jules.
Thank you, Nico. That's the plays of the day. And you know what we've come to now? The end of the show.
What's that?
So, no, we're done, mate. Yeah. We are absolutely done. You've done a great job. Thank you very much. 2 weeks in now. No excuses. Get that internet fixed. And we are going to be cooking with gas because next week we're going to have plenty to talk about. The good horses are back. It's good fun. Let's hopefully get some good track conditions and we'll see you next week.
Love you, buddy. Safe punting, and I'll talk to you on Monday for the review.
Bye.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.